Welcome back to the GymCrafter YouTube channel, everybody. My name is Tim. I am the head gym nerd here at GymCrafter.com, and I've got kind of an interesting video for you guys today. I wasn't planning on making a video about this, but I figured since I'm doing the work anyway, I might as well put it on film. And today is a big day here in the gym because I have to move this guy forward about 3 feet. The reason for that is I'm getting a new dumbbell rack and a new set of dumbbells. They're going to go on that back wall behind and need enough room to actually get back there and not only get them off of the rack, but I'm hoping that I can make enough room to where I can actually do some things like rows off of the rack and things like that. So I need to move this guy forward. In order to move this guy forward, I've got to take all the weights off of it, all the weight stacks and everything else. So while I'm doing that, I'm actually going to do a couple of things to the Dane. So I figured, like I said, I'd get this on video to show you guys not only kind of a time lapse of moving the thing and how long it takes, and we'll see when I'm done here, how long it actually takes and how much of a pain it is. Just in case you're wondering, hey, I'm looking at getting a rack. How much of a pain is it if I put it in the wrong place at first or if I decide to move it? So you guys are about to find out through my pain. But the other thing is if you look at the top of the screen, what you will see is that now the camera itself is perfectly level, okay? But what you'll look is it looks like the rack behind me is tilted, and that's because it is. The reason for that is in garage gyms, the floor of your garage is actually canted. Now this is the back wall of my garage over here. That's the door over there. Typically for homes, this is per code in most states, the floor has to slope towards the door. That way, anything that spills, any liquids, anything like that, all kind of go out the door and doesn't kind of pool up against the foundation of the house. So what that means is that if you put things on the back wall, they're kind of sloped up a little bit, which isn't a huge deal. But when you put things on the side wall like my rack is, and like a lot of yours are, it means that they're tilted. And sometimes it makes a big difference, sometimes it doesn't. I gotta be honest with you guys, it drives me nuts when I'm editing the videos because it looks like things are crooked even though the camera's not. But it also means that it's just leaning ever so slightly, and over time that may cause issues. Also, for you guys who have cardio in your gyms, especially treadmills, if you've got treadmills along the side walls, those treadmills are tilted a little bit sideways, and this is why your belt keeps sliding off center. So it's a nice thing to be aware of. So how are we going to fix that? I'm not only going to move this forward 3 feet, but I'm also going to put some spacers underneath the feet of the rack and see if I can't get it level. I'm probably just going to use some pieces of rubber flooring that I've already got down here and just cut them to size. We'll see what it takes to actually get it to level, but I want this level. I'm also adding some things onto this that it's going to need to be level for, so that will help a lot. I'm going to do a couple of other minor tweaks to this thing while I've got it apart, and I'll try and show you those as I go along. But that's what we're doing today. We're moving the Dane, we're balancing and leveling the rack, and hopefully when I'm done, we'll see if this all fits. And also, I'm going to let you guys know, because I get this question a lot on these, is this thing weighs, as it sits right now, over 1,000 pounds. There is a few hundred pounds in weight stack weights. There's 500 or 600 pounds in bumper plates on here. There's the weight of the rack itself. So I don't know if I actually need to put these front feet on, and I know a lot of you guys are trying to fit these half racks in a very tight area. So I'm going to see how stable this is without the front feet, because while I've got plenty of room to move the rack out into my gym, the feet sticking out are going to get in the way of some open floor space, which I like to have in a gym. You want to have as much open floor space as you can so that you can do things like trap bar deadlifts, and I've got a heavy bag still to hang in here, so I need room to move around that. So all those things will hopefully get answered today, but let me get to moving this thing, and then we'll get you some close-ups of leveling it and some other stuff as I go along, and yeah, we'll go from there. So that's step one completed. It took me about 45 minutes. It took a lot less time than I thought it would to get this thing unloaded and everything moved forward. Now I moved it forward so that there's actually 60 inches from the back of this rack back here to the back wall. And the reason for that is the dumbbell rack that I'm getting is 28 inches deep at the feet, and I wanted enough room to walk in between and also do a little bit of work back here off of the dumbbell rack itself. So this is just a point to remind you guys of, is as you're moving stuff around in the gym, as you're buying new equipment, it's really, really important to measure out. Now I put some plates on the floor to tell me how deep that dumbbell rack was, And it's so important to do that because in my head, how much room I was gonna need is not how much room I actually need. So this thing's out a lot further than I thought it was going to be. Now, not a huge deal. I did take the front feet off. So those of you out there looking to get the Dane, this actually, even without any weights on it, is pretty stable without it. I don't think it would stay in place without any of the weights on it or any of the stacks, but once we get the weight stacks back on, and especially once I get the dumbbell or the bumper plates back on, this thing's not moving anywhere. So I don't know if there's a safety issue, so do this at your own risk, but for me, I'm not gonna put those front feet back on. Looks totally different without them, but it just, for me, it's gonna stick too far out into my gym, and it seems like it's gonna be perfectly stable. I'll let you know if that's not the case once I get everything loaded back on, but I'm pretty sure it's gonna be just fine. Now, what we're gonna do next, I'm gonna do a couple things. First of all, I'm going to level this. As you can tell by looking at the top of the frame up here, it is still tilted a little bit, so I'm gonna put the levelers underneath, show you how we do that. I'm also going to make a couple of changes to the rack, an upgrade. I'm also going to measure some things because there is a design issue that I found in the Dane as I've used it that I wanna fix, and I need some measurements while it's taken apart to do that. So I'm gonna walk you through all of that. I'm also going to rerun these cables. Fringe Sport has put out a couple of videos lately on the twisting of these little pulleys here, and that's something that I've been having an issue with, so I'm gonna fix those. If you haven't seen that video, I'll cover that here. I'm also gonna show you how to lube the uprights, which is another thing that Fringe Sport just came out with, but just in case you haven't seen that, I'll show you how to do that as well as I put this back together. So let's get to leveling this thing. So when I put a level on this, it's definitely not level. However, it's not as out of level as I thought. So I don't know if this is gonna be thick enough or not, but what I did was I basically I have some extra floor tiles from when I installed my flooring. This is a great tip for you, is always keep that leftover flooring scraps because it just comes in handy for a lot of different things, and this is one of them. So I cut, for the feet of the Dane, I cut some 4 3/4 by 6 inch little rectangles. This is just slightly larger than each of the feet, and I'm hoping that this is 8mm flooring or 5/8, I don't remember which, it's basically the same thing. And I'm hoping that once I get this up there and put on top of these, and then with the weight down on them, which will compress these a little bit, that hopefully that's gonna get it close enough to level. And I'm not looking for exact, it doesn't have to be perfect, but it needs to be a little bit better than it has been. And then I also noticed that some of my lights up there are crooked, so that's making it look worse. So I'm gonna fix those as well eventually. But let me get to doing this now. How am I gonna lift this up? Basically what I'm doing is a lever. So this is a 10-pound mace bell by Onnit that I don't use for a ton of stuff, but I'm gonna use it today. And I'm basically just gonna put it under here, and I'm gonna use it as a lever to lever this up, slide the feet underneath. Now, once we get this in place, it's gonna be really important that it's in the exact right place. So I've measured about 16 different times to make sure that this is equidistant from each side.
Hello, I am a nerd from the Nerd Brigade.
Everything's square, everything's straight, because once I get these underneath and I get all the weights back on, this thing ain't moving. So I don't wanna have to go through all this again. So when you do this, or if you do this, make sure that you are measuring 8 times and then cutting once. So let's get these things underneath here, and hopefully it will work and not be tipping the other way. We'll see. So according to the level, it is pretty much perfect. So I didn't plan on it being perfect, but boy, it's nice that that worked out. So that'll tell you how much my floor is canted. Yours is probably canted about the same amount. So for me, it was about an 8mm rise on this side over the other side. Got this thing up to level. They're measured out perfect, and using the lever to get it up was no problem at all. They went right in, as you saw. So that's this thing leveled. Let's start getting it back together. I'm gonna show you a couple of things on the way back together to double check on your Dane if you're just getting it now, or if you already have it, that are going to make it work a little bit better for you. Over the last few months of owning and using the Dane, I've really grown to love it more and more each day. Now that doesn't mean that everything on it is perfect, and in fact, there's a couple of little things that have popped up here and there, and then kind of one big thing in my mind, and I want to show you that because I'm working on a fix for it, and if I can fix it, I'll roll that out to you guys. But basically it's this, is the top plate of the weight stack, the holes up here, they're really loose. They're not tight on the guide rails. So if you can see this, it tilts back and forth. So it kind of wiggles in different directions. Now, here's why that's an issue. When you put fractional weights on top of here, if they're not exactly centered, it tilts it. And then when it goes back down, the guide rod doesn't go into the holes in the weight below. Also, if I've got the weights on and they're balanced and I happen to run this into the top and knock it loose, I've got to stop and then recenter everything. The other issue is if you're looking to use a gym pin with additional weights, if you're using it where you're using it as your stack pin and the additional weights, you can't, because if the pin is only kind of halfway in and you put the weights on the side, it tilts the whole stack, and again, the pin doesn't go down below. So you end up having to, so workaround, you work your way up to the full weight of the stack, put your regular stack pin in all the way at the bottom, and that locks everything in, so there's no, this isn't going back into any weights anymore. And then you put your gym pin on the other side. It's not a big deal, but all of that together is kind of a pain in the butt. So what I'm doing while this is off is I'm actually going to take a caliper to these, measure the internal diameter of these, and also measure the diameter of the poles. And I have got a couple of friends who are retired engineers and have gotten into 3D printing. So I am going to try and have a 3D printed shim made that I can put in here. So if that works, I will definitely come back and let you guys know. If I can find somebody who is willing to make more than one just for me, I'll definitely make them available to you guys. If not, I'll see if I can't at least get the drawing out to you guys, so if you know anybody who 3D prints. But anyway, long way of saying, while I've got it apart, I figured I'd measure that stuff, but I also wanted to point out to you guys a little bit of a fix for the gym pin. And then also some of you have commented about different options for fractional plates, and they're usually a weighted pin. And the problem with the weighted pin is it tilts this and then it doesn't go up and down. So until this part is fixed, using a pin as a fractional weight isn't really a solution. So that's what I've got so far. Let me get back to putting this thing together, and I've got a couple more things for you. Since I took the weight stacks out and I'm rerouting the cables again, I wanted to take a minute and show you guys something that's pretty common on not only the Dane, but on a lot of different cable stacks. I've had this happen on my bells of steel. I've seen this happen on quite a few. So this is a normal thing. And part of it is how you put it together. And Fringe Sport just put out a video of how to put it together correctly, which I'll show you again. But also there's a quicker way to fix it than taking the whole thing apart. So basically what happens is when you put your pulleys together, this pulley right here may start to twist. And when that twists and binds, it makes everything not smooth and it causes a problem. If you notice right here, it's actually sitting nice and straight. So when you're putting your Dane together, or if you're rerouting the cables, what you want to do is you just want to make sure that your cables aren't twisted before you run them. So you can let it sit on the floor. Fringe recommends that you unloop it, you let it sit on the floor and kind of settle for a little bit. In the end, you want to make sure that you don't twist it as you're routing it through. So that's the first part. The second part is as you're screwing it into the end, there's a screw that goes into a little hole at the top of the weight stack. And then for the shorter cable, there's another one similar to it. The cable should spin freely inside this bolt, right? Well, if you're pushing this in and you're letting the actual cable turn as you screw the bolt in, then what happens is it twists the cable, and when the cable twists, it wants to kink up, and that's what causes this to have a problem. So my recommendation is when you first run your cables, or if you take this apart, get your cables rerun and then get it so that this is sitting straight to start off with. If this isn't sitting straight to start off with, that tells you that your cable is turned a little bit. Once it's there, screw it in, and when you screw it in, all you got to do is just hold on to the top of the cable as you screw this bolt in, and that keeps the cable itself from turning, and that gets you in real quick. And then once it's put together, you may have this happen again anyway. So let me show you what to do if it happens once it's all put together and you think you've done everything right, and you've still got a pulley that actually turns like this. So what can happen over the course of use is, even though you might put this in perfectly, this cable may start to twist for a number of different reasons. You could have an attachment on the end here, which over the course of use, you grab it in different ways and it twists the cable. And what happens is this will start again to twist. The nice thing is as long as you put the bottom cable on, which is the short one, on right, you'll never have to worry about that one again, but the top one may twist. All you need to do, if you notice it, or even if you've got it now and you don't want to take the whole thing apart, just take this cable end and twist it. What you'll see is if I twist this a few times, 2, 3, and then I pull on it, what happens is this will actually start to turn a little bit each time I do that. And you'll notice it's slowly turning. Maybe you can't see it on camera. It's slowly turning this way. And if I turn it the other way and then pull on it, and the reason you're pulling on it is you're letting that twist actually get through the whole cable there. So if yours is currently twisted and you don't want to take everything apart, what you can do is just give the cable end a few twists, pull on it a little bit, and that will work your pulley back into place. That's something that's not on the Fringe Sport video, but it's something that I find myself doing every once in a while. And then another nice solution is get yourself some of these like swivel shackles to connect your attachments on, or make sure you're using attachments that actually swivel as well, and then you won't have to worry about the attachment turning or twisting the cable. So that's just a quick tip for you on how to make sure that your cables and your pulleys aren't twisted. Let me get back to putting this thing back together, and I've got a couple more things to show you. The next step getting this thing back together and getting it all tip top is I'm going to lubricate the guide rods. Now, if you just put your Dane together out of the box, it's probably lubed just fine, but it can't hurt to put a little bit more on there just to make sure that it's well done. Now again, Fringe Sport came out with a video for this. I want to kind of make a couple tweaks to what they advised, and then the process is going to be the same. I just want to change the recommendation of what you use. So in that video, they recommended that you use either 3-in-1 oil or WD-40. I actually don't like either one of those just because there's some caustic odors there. You're gonna see some residual smell in your Dane, and for me at least, I'm kind of sensitive to that stuff. I smell this the entire time it's there. So why I don't use these on my barbells, I don't use WD-40 on my barbells, and really there's better stuff to use. So let me give you a couple of other options. So my first choice is going to be my Barbell Rescue barbell oil. This is gonna work great for lubricating this as well. The nice thing about this is you want something that's not just going to lubricate, but that's going to kind of prevent corrosion as well. And this does a great job of preventing rust and things like that. So this is what I'm going to use. What you can also use if you don't have this is if you've got silicone lubricating oil, this works just fine. This is probably the least caustic of all of it. Neither one of these will smell. Neither one of them will be harmful. I don't need to use rubber gloves. If I use WD-40, if I use 3-in-1 oil, I would actually use rubber gloves. But this is gonna work well. This comes with a lot of cable towers and things like that. The Dane didn't come with anything, but I have this from another one. And then another thing you can use is this stuff. This brand is Nexus Green. I use this for a while. This is a green lubricant, so it's organic. It's not, I don't think it's petroleum based. It's non-toxic, it's non-caustic, it's odor-free. So you can get this on Amazon. I'll put a link down below. But for me, I'm gonna use the Barbell Rescue oil just because I like that the best. It's based on this. And then all you need to do, same thing as you would see in that Fringe Sport video, is you're gonna take the oil and you're gonna take your towel and you're going to basically put some oil all around the guide rods, and then you're going to kind of rub it up and down, all the way up and down the guide rods, and you're gonna have to clean up some of the drops. And then as you do that, give this a pull so that it gets up and down. And then I would also probably put a pin in the whole stack and put that up and down as well. You're gonna do that a few times on each guide rod just to make sure it's all there. But make sure you're wiping it down. You're not looking to leave a bunch of residue on there, but this will leave a nice, even, thin film. And this stuff doesn't evaporate. It won't go anywhere. It'll last for a long time. And then once you're done with that, you're gonna take this little applicator and you're gonna put some down in the openings of the weight plates or the weight stack itself. Let it get down inside. Again, pull the weight stack up and down, wipe your rod one last time.
But she said, that's what she said, that's what she said.
Good one. And then you're done, and then you will have a nice smooth pull on your weight stack. Now, what would a GymCrafter video be if I didn't take way too long to explain something that should take like 2 seconds?
No, please don't, please don't.
So here we go. So one of my favorite anecdotes is there's a man and a wife cooking a ham for Easter. And the wife asked the husband to put the ham in the pan, and when he does, she goes, "You did it wrong. You didn't cut the ends off the ham." He goes, "Why do we got the ends off the ham?" She's like, "I don't know. That's how my mom taught me. Call her and find out." So he calls her mom and goes, "Hey, mother-in-law, why do we cut the ends off the ham?" She goes, "I don't know. That's because that's grandma. Grandma taught me to do that." "Hey, grandma, why do we cut the ends off the ham? When we put the ham in the oven for Easter?" And grandma goes, "Oh, that's because the pan that I had was too small. And we had to cut the ends off the ham to make it fit in the pan." So, why did I tell you that dumb story?
You, sir, are an idiot.
Because I think there's a lot of things in home gyms that we do because they were necessary in commercial gyms, and they just carried over to home gyms, but there's no longer a reason for them. And so I'm going to do something that I've been waiting to do for a while, which I'm going to take my wire cutters, I'm going to take my weight stack pin, and I'm going to cut this stupid cable off. Because what's that cable for? That cable is so that the pin doesn't walk across the gym in a commercial gym. I am not going to lose the cable. I don't need that stupid cord. I'm happy to cut it off, and you should too. And there's the part of the GymCrafter video that takes way too long to explain something Very simple. I've got one more thing to show you on this and we'll get this video wrapped up. Last step in this project for today, and then we'll give you a little bit of a wrap up, but this is what I've been really looking forward to. So if you aren't familiar with the channel too much, I love my Dane. The one thing I don't like about it is the red accents. So I have committed to you guys that I'm going to slowly convert the Dane to a half rack with green accents, and this is going to be one of the first steps. What I've got up here that you see bolted to the top is what's called a HornHub. It's by Darko Lifting. If you guys are familiar with Darko, you know. And if not, you need to be. I'll put a link down below. He's got all kinds of really cool stuff. And one of the coolest things about Darko's stuff is that a lot of it is customizable to different colors and to actually just complement your gym and make it look nice. So this solves two problems. Number one, I've been wanting to add some green to the rack. Still not sure about this lime green. I think I might go with a darker green in the end. Let me know what you guys think in the comments. I think it looks pretty good either way. And then what this is this is for my fractional plates. So I've got 2.5 pound plate here, and then a couple of 5 pound plates. This gets these up out of the way, gets them off the floor, which is where they've been, gets all of my weights on one little tree here. It's really awesome. Now, one of the cool things about this, and actually more impressed with this in real life than I was when I saw it online. When I saw it online, it just looked kind of plasticky, to be real honest with you. This thing is nice heavy gauge steel on the back. This is super heavy gauge steel. It's very sturdy. It's just awesome. And you can pick the color of the weight horns, and you can also pick this background color here in any combination that you want. Check it out. Again, I'll put a link down below. And I really love it. So I love getting these up out of the way. This is the last thing I needed to do in this project. And part of the reason I'm getting the dumbbell stand I am is for a lot of storage. So a lot of stuff that's been stashed all around the gym in boxes and on shelves and things like that are all going to get a place right back here where I made plenty of room for the dumbbell rack. So there you have it. This is the movement of the Dane, a couple of upgrades, a couple of fixes. If you guys have any questions on the Dane, let me know in the comments below. This is my rack. I'm happy to answer them for you. If you decide you want a Dane, the link down below is an affiliate link. That lets Fringe Sport know that you like the content that I'm putting out. Hopefully it's a little bit different than what you see on other channels and a little bit more helpful to those of you out there looking to actually make a purchase of something like this. So definitely appreciate it if you use that link. But outside of that, that's all I've got for today. I am done working for today. I'm going to clean up and go sit on the couch and hang out with my dogs for a little bit, and hopefully you guys can do something fun too. So until the next time you tune in for a video or a review or a how-to or whatever you tune in here for, I am Tim with GymCrafter.